Welcome to Success Series. Today we are going to start our first video on the Taxation Ghana series. Now let's start. Today we are looking at employment income. And before we dive into the concept, we need to know what unemployment is. So what is unemployment? Now, according to the Income Tax Act 2015 Act 896, it defines employment as a position of an individual in the employment of another person, or a position of an individual as a manager of an entity other than as partner of a partnership, or a position of an individual entitling the individual to a fixed or ascertainable remuneration in respect of services rendered, and a public office held by an individual. So these are the various ways you can see that a person is what under employment. A person is being employed. Now, before we move into the ascertainment of the employment income, there is a need for us to know certain key things or certain key interest or variables which will help us in our computation of the chargeable or the employment income in this respect. Now let's first look at the personal tax reliefs. Bear in mind, tax reliefs are given to taxpayers in order to lessen their tax burden. So yeah, let's look at the various ones we have. The first we have is the personal relief, and here this amount is 3828. And here bear in mind that the personal relief is given to the person irrespective of his or her condition or anything. So this one is entitled to everyone is supposed to get the personal relief. Then we have marriage or responsibility relief, which is an amount of 1,200. And the condition here is that the person must be married or must be taking care of at least 2 dependent children. So if the person is taking care of at least 2 dependent children, then the person gets the responsibility relief. But if the person is married, the person gets the married relief. If the person is having both, the person just attains only the one figure for both of the conditions. And the next thing is that if the person is taking care of children in children's education, he is also supposed to get the children education relief. Bear in mind that this children education relief is given to up to a number of 3 children. So only 3 children are going to get this relief. So the person can only claim this relief for only 3 children. The amount is 600 per child. The next relief is what? The age dependent relative. And here the amount is 1,000 per dependent. And here the maximum number is only for 2 dependents. Then we have the old age relief. We could be having people who have gone or who are on pension or who are 60 years plus, and therefore they have been contracted to engage in some employment, and therefore in their case of calculating their employment income, we need to lessen their tax burden by the old age relief, which is an amount of 1,500. We have the disability relief, which is a percentage of 25% of the accessible income. We'll explain accessible income very soon. Then we have the cost of training. Cost of training here is in respect of professionalism, technical or vocational, and the amount for that is 2,000. Then we have some benefits, either accommodation facilities and vehicle related benefit that the individual can also attain. Now let's look at the accommodation. So the accommodation is based on the condition. The phase whereby one is provided with accommodation with furnishing, here he gets an additional benefit of 10% of the total cash emolument. That's the TCE. It's going to be 10% of the total cash emolument. And if in the case whereby it's accommodation only, it's just 7.5%. In the case whereby it's just furnishing only, it's 2.5%. And the case whereby it's shared accommodation, it's also 2.5%. Now let's talk about the vehicle related benefits as well. So in the case of vehicle related benefits, in the case where one is provided with a fuel, a vehicle, and then a driver, the person gets an additional benefit of 12.5% of the total cash emolument. But with this figure, the maximum amount that you can get is just what? 600 per month. So in calculating this roughly for a year, which is going to be 600 multiplied by 12, you are going to get 7,200. So for a whole year, this amount for the full vehicle with driver should not exceed 7,200. That's the 600 per month. Then in case it's a vehicle with fuel, it's 10% of the total cash emolument, and the amount that should not exceed is 500 per month. And vehicle only is 5% up to the 250 per month. Then we have fuel only, which is 5% up to 250 per month. Now let's look at the format for the computation of our chargeable income. Now the first thing you need to bring in is currency sign, very key, very important. Bring the currency sign, followed by the basic salary, which is the first item you need to bring. So you bring the basic salary, then you add your cash allowances. So depending on your question that you have, you'll be having several cash allowances. We have professional allowance, inconvenience allowance, risk allowance. All those ones needs to be added to the basic salary to get our total cash emolument. So whilst we're talking about the benefits, we made mention of total cash emolument more often. Now total cash emolument here is just your base salary plus your cash allowance. Then when we are done with this, we move to the non-cash element, the non-cash items, where we have the car element, which is a percentage of the total cash emolument, depending on the condition, whether it's fuel, vehicle with driver, whether it's fuel only, vehicle only. All those conditions, you have to know the applicable rates involved. Now the rent element as well, you have to know whether it's accommodation with furnishing, just accommodation only, furnishing only, or shared accommodation. All these ones you need to know them. So we add these ones to it, and then we add any other non-cash benefits. So when we add any other non-cash benefit, we get accessible income. Now remember, when we were talking about the disability relief, we made mention that it's for 25% of accessible income. Now what's accessible income? Accessible income is basically the summation of your basic salary and your cash allowance, and then non-cash allowances. So the summation of base salary, cash allowance, and then non-cash allowance. Then from there, when we get accessible income, we less our reliefs. So our reliefs, we have already spoken about them, but one additional one we need to speak about was the social security relief. And this is a compulsory relief individuals are supposed to pay, and the amount is 5.5% of the basic salary. So we charge 5.5% on the basic salary to ascertain the social security relief, followed by marriage or responsibility. Remember the amount 1,200 here. So child education, which is 600 per child, and the maximum number of children is what? 3. Then we spoke about the age dependent, which is 1,000 per dependent, and the amount was amount of the maximum is up to 2 dependent children. We spoke about old age, we spoke about professional training, we spoke about disabled person. We said it's 25% of the accessible income. Now when you're done with this, you less all your reliefs from your accessible income to get a chargeable income. Then when you're able to get a chargeable income, you have to subject it to tax. Now in doing the tax, in computation of your tax, bear in mind your tax will be subjected to the personal income tax rate if the person is a resident person. So for resident person, you are going to use the personal income tax rate to measure the amount of tax they need to pay. Now if you check the table there, the first amount is free, and the reason why it's free is that, but that's the personal relief. The amount there is for 3,828, you see, so that's the personal relief. Then you follow one, then you follow ACU, so it's from 0% to 30%. You could check the rate from 0 through to 30. Then in a case whereby the person is a non-resident, what happens? Now with non-resident, they are taxed at a flat rate of an income tax rate of 25%. Now let's look at the question on what you have done so far. Abigail has been employed as the assistant administrative manager of Success Company Limited on a base salary of 2,500 per month. In addition, she is paid a professional allowance of 300 Ghana cedi per month, as well as a risk allowance of 200 Ghana cedi per month or monthly. She enjoys a responsibility allowance of 200 Ghana cedi per month. Abigail has been provided with furnished accommodation in a saloon car by employers. She contributes 5% to Social Security Fund. She is married with a child, but her husband does not work. Required: determine Abigail's monthly taxable pay. Now let's look at the question. Well, let's analyze it before we solve. Now we're given the base salary. Remember, we're going to use this. And we have the various cash allowances. The cash allowance, you can see professional allowance of 300, risk allowance of 200, responsibility allowance of 200. Now we move on. We also have what? Furnished accommodation, which is what? A non-cash allowance over here. And here Femi's accommodation, apply the applicable rates, which is 10% over there. And saloon car, we also have a saloon car, which is also for the car element. And here saloon car only, which is the vehicle only, we get the person only what 5% on that. Then here we have been told that the person contributes social security of an amount of what 5%. Bear in mind that ideally the rate is what 5.5%. But here the question it's telling you that it's 5%, so you need to use the 5% in your computation. Bear in mind, you have to use the 5% in your computation. Okay, yeah, the Abigail is married with a child but does not work, but the husband does not work, which implies that Abigail will be entitled to the marriage or responsibility relief of 1,200. Now, let's solve our question now. The first you need to bring is the name of the employee, and here is Abigail. You bring the heading computation of Abigail's monthly taxable pay. You bring the currency sign. Then we bring our base salary, which is the first thing, 2,500. Remember here it's monthly, so we are just going to use the month amount. Then we add our cash allowances. In our question we're having professional allowance of 300, Rex allowance of 200, responsibility allowance of 200. Adding all this we get 700, and this will give us a total cash emolument of 3,200. Now when we are done, we need to add non-cash allowances. The non-cash allowances we have is rent allowance, or the rent element, which is 10%. Here it was only saloon car, so it was vehicle only 10%. Sorry, yeah, rent, this one is rent, so yeah, it was accommodation with furnishing, and that's just 10% of the total cash emolument. So we're going to charge 10% of the total cash emolument, which is 3,200, multiplied by 10%, which will give us 320. Then we come to car element, which was just a saloon car. Saloon car, which is a vehicle, will give us 5% on the TCE, which is the total cash emolument. So it's going to be 5% multiplied by 3,200. And here, remember the limit. The limit is that the amount for the 5% is not, it shouldn't exceed what 250 per month. So when we calculate 5% on the 3,200, we had 160, which has not exceeded the 250. So we're going to maintain the amount at what 160. Now we add 320 to 160, we get 480. Then we add this 480 to our total cash emolument to get our total accessible income, which is 3,680 Ghana cedi. After that, we need to list our various tax reliefs. The first one that we are supposed to learn is the Social Security Fund, SSF. We're going to subtract the Social Security Fund. And here the Social Security Fund, our question told us to use a rate of what? 5%. So we are going to use 5% on your what? Basic salary. So 5% on basic salary. Basic salary is 2,500. So it's going to be 5% on 2,500, which you are going to get an amount of 125. After that, you also have what? Marriage or responsibility relief. And here, remember that marriage or responsibility relief is 1,200 per year, it's per annum. And here, our question, we are dealing with what? Just what? Monthly, per month. So we need to find it for 1 month. So we are going to divide it by what? 12, and that's going to give us 100. Now 100 plus 125 will give us 225, and then we calculate to get our taxable pay. So we subtract the 225 from 3,680, and that's going to give us a taxable pay of 3,455. Thank you.